What's up, guys? It's good to be live with you. Well, during this pandemic, we have all seen a lot of news outlets repeating each other all in lockstep. Question is, are we being hypnotized into something? Today, I'm going to bring in a certified hypnotist who's been analyzing news headlines and how hypnotic they are. And he's going to help you understand whether you've been hypnotized. We're going to dig into some news. So before we do, let me bring up a headline that YouTube likes so we can get down and dirty into some real truth here. Look, YouTube likes Daily Beast, so we're going to cite Daily Beast today. Look at this new headline. The CIA, hypnosis, and cocaine. Why a pilot faked his own death in front of his family in 1977. It's a true life story that's being highlighted on HBO of this criminal who was a pilot, faked his own death with the use of hypnosis on others. We are going to dive into how that can even happen with the help of the professional hypnotist we're bringing on. Now, before we get deep into it, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, which is this awesome hat. Turn up your volume for this. Statistics show American patriotism is thriving. In fact, 85% of Americans consider themselves very patriotic. 63% own an American flag, and 43% are extremely proud to be an American. There's never been a better time to stand by your fellow patriots. That's why I highly recommend the In God We Trust hat to proudly show your patriotism. The In God We Trust hat is worn by preppers, survivalists, and patriots around the country. It is beautiful stitching of the American flag, a cross, and the words boldly printed, "In God We Trust." Fight the anti-patriotic agenda in this country with the In God We Trust hat. I love mine, and I wear it everywhere I go. If you've been looking for a way to be more patriotic this summer, you'll love the In God We Trust hat. Buy one In God We Trust hat and get another one for free for the next 24 hours by going to the link down in the description, www.godwetrusthat.com, or just visit that link down below. Grab the hat right now. Okay, with that being said, let's bring on Paul William, the certified hypnotist. How are you, Paul? Ooh, you're on mute. Hold on. Oops.
My bad.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going really, really good. And thank you so much for having me and bringing this very, very important and very little understood and very undercovered, you might say, subject regarding mass hypnosis, the fact that it's going on, and the fact that if you're aware that it's going on and you can, recognize the techniques in real time when they're being used, then you can defend yourself against the hijacking of your mind, as it were.
So I understand you got certified as a hypnotist during the pandemic, and you were interested in hypnotism prior to it. Tell me about getting into this and your observations with people you know.
Sure. So it began a very long time ago. I want to say I might have been 19 or 20 years old when the thought occurred to me. I thought, how much money is being spent on marketing, advertising, just the persuasion side of communication? I haven't done an analysis on this, but I believe that somewhere in the billion, to $2 billion, there's a $1 to $2 billion budget, bare minimum, where, and I'm talking in a very broad sense, where advertisers, newscasters, et cetera, they practice how to get you to do, think, say, and believe things that you wouldn't do, say, think, or believe were it not for their influence. So I thought to myself way back when, I thought, if mankind, so to speak, is this well studied, then how do I know that I'm not being altered? How do I know that the person that I really am isn't, to some extent, a kind of like a pastiche of cultural influences? So I started learning a little bit about hypnosis purely for self-defense reasons, way back when. And then I let it go for a while. I started doing other things. I wanted to get into a soil restoration business, and that's a story we won't go into now. But it came really back to the forefront in my life when I found a book and pardon the pardon the title. This is a very intense title, but it's called "How to Hypnotize Anyone: The Confessions of a Rogue Hypnotist."
Mm.
And I saw that title and I thought, I can't not buy this. I can't not read it. It might be BS. It might be something legitimate, but I was just compelled, as it were, to read it. And when I read that book, I realized prior to that I didn't really have an interest in hypnotizing other people. And to some extent, even the verb to hypnotize somebody is a little bit of a misnomer, because there's at least some degree of collaboration and a two-way street when it comes to hypnosis. And I'll get into all that in a little bit. But yeah, essentially, I realized that hypnosis could be used to harm, or it could be used to heal. So what I mean by that is, we all have kind of an inner dialogue that runs on repeat in the back of our minds as we're living our lives, and that inner dialogue is going to have a lot of ideas in it, particularly about ourselves. Am I good enough? Am I where I need to be? I do like this about myself. I don't like that about myself. And through this process, you're basically creating, for lack of a better way of putting it, you are very much creating your experiential reality. And some people like to say, "Oh, you're creating your reality," and I don't, that's a bit on the new agey side of things. But there is a lot of truth to the fact that your experience is being crafted by the things that you believe implicitly, by the words that you use to describe your experience. So I started learning about this, and at the time when I got really into using it for therapeutic reasons to help people, one of my first experiments I did with this, I was dealing with a really, really bad bout of insomnia. I mean, we're talking like years of
Mm.
sleeping 2-3 hours a night for months on end. I'm amazed I'm still standing. So I had tried a lot of different things, and I found a script for healing insomnia via hypnosis. So I recorded it into a little microphone. I listened back to it. It was a long script. It was like an hour long. And, I was listening to it. I'm like, I don't feel anything. What's going on? Whatever. So about halfway through it, I took the earphones off and I went, okay, I guess that didn't work. And then I slept like a rock that night. Excuse me. And every other night since then, but not since then, but every other night for about 2 months afterwards. So that's when I realized that some part of my mind had actually taken on board the hypnotic suggestions that were in the audio that I had read to myself. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I decided that I wanted to study it really, really in depth, so that way I can, not only defend myself, but also um, just reverse engineer the negative influences. And I promise your audience, I probably already know this implicitly, but there are so many negative influences out there that cause us to become very disempowered, that cause us to, in many ways, kind of forget who we are, forget our talents, forget our innate abilities to heal our own issues. And by the way, nothing I'm saying here is should be taken as a medical claim. I'm not here to treat or diagnose anything. Just got to put that out there. So that being said, I did do a self-hypnosis process on myself to rid myself of dog allergies, and lo and behold, it appears to have worked.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a really powerful influence that the mind has on the body, and that's kind of what hypnosis is about. It's about how the mind enters into different states and how those states compel behaviors. Um, for example, there's a very famous routine that almost everyone's heard of in stage hypnosis, where you have somebody barking like a dog or clucking like a chicken. Well, if you put somebody in a deep enough trance, and you suggest to them, you're going to behave like a dog or cluck like a chicken, they may actually have an experience of that that's so compelling that they will do that. And this is really important to keep in mind, because when the media tells you, "Oh, you're this type of person, and you know what this type of person does? They behave in such and such ways." You're on team red, you're on team blue. Well, that must mean that Pepsi is the beverage of choice for you. And then people go and they carry it out, and they're not conscious that they're doing it. Just like how I wasn't conscious that my insomnia issues way back in the day were actually being addressed hypnotically with the audio that I read to myself. So there's a lot to unpack there. I'll hand the floor back to you.
Well, yeah, just looking at Mayo Clinic's website, they describe hypnosis as also referred to as hypnotherapy or hypnotic suggestion, is a trance-like state in which you have heightened focus and concentration. Hypnosis is usually done with the help of a therapist using verbal repetition and mental images. So it's good for pain control, hot flashes, behavior changes, cancer treatment, and mental health conditions. But the risks include you can actually have more anxiety and distress after hypnosis, and you can also create false memories, Mayo Clinic says. So, and viewers, send in your questions. Send super chats. I'll read them live. So here's the thing: you're getting into becoming expert in hypnosis, and the pandemic rolls around. Now, what did you notice with your own friends and family in regards to news programming we saw in the pandemic? Because the news programming in this pandemic, the exact same narrative was happening on the local and national level on every outlet.
Oh, yes. Well, this gets into repetition and fear. So one of the ways that hypnosis works is it works by essentially one of many ways, but one of the ways that it works is by accessing your deeper mind by heightening your emotions. And this is why, among other things, it's really important all the time to ask yourself, why am I being told what I'm being told? Is it even true? Is it not true? And I invite the people watching this to not necessarily take on board anything that I say without really critically thinking about it. But as far as the pandemic goes, essentially, you have a mass of people, and they very deeply and implicitly trust Big Pharma on some level, even if they say they don't. I have friends. I actually came from a very if you rewound the clock about 7 years, you would have found me very much a progressive liberal type of person, because I was stuck in the trance back then. And one of the things that broke that trance for me was just witnessing the media kind of hysteria around Donald Trump and wondering, well, why on earth is that going on? So you have a very fearful population of people who they already think that the Fourth Reich is taking over America, which is just objectively not correct.
At the hands of Donald Trump?
At the hands of Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Okay, I have a video about. Okay, here's the video depiction of the hypnosis in regards to Donald Trump. Here it is.
Breaking news. Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Orange man bad. Diversity is our strength. Gender is a social insult. White people must be abolished. Real communism hasn't been tried yet. He will not divide us. This need is dehumanizing.
Why?
Yep. Well, there you go. There it is right there. Yeah, Orange Man bad. That's been the repetitive hypnotic suggestion, hasn't it? Yeah. You know, it's the thing that how should I say, short circuits rational thought. And by the way, it happens to almost everybody's been hypnotized at some point in their life. So, you know, don't feel bad about it if you have found yourself in a trance that you were put in. It's kind of how our nervous system works. We organize our attention in such a way where we focus upon that which is subconsciously important to us. We don't focus on that which is subconsciously not important to us. So when you're dealing with the left, you have a bunch of people, they believe that the right, and it's a little bit simplistic to even think of it as left and right, but we'll go with that because it's culturally recognizable. It's coherent, I suppose. But yeah, everyone, not everyone, but lots of people think that Donald Trump's victory in 2016 meant that the Fourth Reich was coming, that half of their neighbors are a bunch of, um, pardon it to sound extreme here, but, quasi-genocidal maniacs. That's the accusation. You're Hitler, you're a Nazi, etc., etc., etc. Which is ironic, considering the fact that Donald Trump's daughter is Jewish. So, not exactly not exactly a Nazi. But point is once that fear messaging is repetitive enough, people start to implicitly believe that they have to live on a kind of war footing, a sort of perpetual readiness to deal with the for lack of a better way putting it, the Nazi next door, which is one of the reasons why you'll see a lot of people on the left. They'll read dog whistles into things where there isn't a dog whistle, or they'll read malintent or all kinds of crazy intent into somebody they even know very well. I had a dear old friend just the other day congratulate me on joining a hate group just for no other reason than I absolutely support Donald Trump completely. And as an aside, Donald Trump is a very deeply hypnotically talented man, and he's using it for very, very beneficial reasons.
So
he's
hypnotizing others?
Yeah, and I don't know if you were to enter his mind. I don't know if he's even necessarily thinking about it in that way. So I want to be careful about accusing somebody of being a hypnotist. But his way of speaking and just his general manner of being very persuasive definitely borrows from some hypnotic technique. And the thing about hypnotic technique too is that deep persuasion, body language, this sort of thing, it's our first language. It's actually the way that we understand how people feel and what they're communicating to us before we even acquire language. So a lot of people can have a sort of hypnotic talents without even realizing that that's what they have. So in Donald Trump's case, I'm not his biographer. I don't know if he took, lessons in persuasion, but he has such a naturally charismatic personality that even in my own life, I didn't really feel like it belongs to a nation or a country or whatever until he showed up and I started getting that patriotic spirit. That was you could call that a very positive trance that he has put lots of us into. And again, just to be very careful about how we describe certain things. When I say he put us into a patriotic trance, that's one way of describing that. He just made us feel very enthusiastic about America. So not all forms of persuasion are bad. You can take somebody who is deeply possessed by a negative trance, you might say, and then just help them get out of it by suggesting a more positive reality to them. For example, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Just for example, America is great. That's the counter hypnotic suggestion. Orange man bad, patriotism bad, patriotism equals hate speech, whatever it might be. Well, actually, no, patriotism equals self-love. America is something that is worth preserving, worth defending, and there was a reason why the founders gave their lives to do so.
So it sounds like you're saying both the left and the right have been hypnotized into trances. Is anyone thinking for themselves at this point then?
Well, that's the thing. To think for yourself, it's very much like lifting weights. If you never lift weights, you don't develop a muscle, right? So you have to practice it. You have to actually put effort into it. So to the extent that people are just kind of going along to getting along, yeah, you could say that most people aren't necessarily thinking for themselves, or at least They mistake their emotional feelings about stuff for a rational process, and that gets at the heart of how to sort of make choices. But again, not all trances are bad. Like, for example, an athlete that's in the zone and they're scoring home runs, or they're getting free throws and they're just like nailing it every single time, that person is also in a trance, because a trance really just means a configuration of attention whereby certain things are heightened and other things are diminished.
So let's talk about the trances that people entered in this pandemic. So legendary musician Eric Clapton spoke about this recently in a podcast interview about him coming to an understanding that he may have been put under a hypnotic trance in this pandemic. Take a look.
My family and friends they got scared, and I think they were scared on my behalf. And that also, I thought, well, why are they? What's going on here? And there seemed to be this sort of, I didn't get the memo. Whatever the memo was, it hadn't reached me. Then I started to realize there was really a memo. And that guy, Matthias Desmet, talked about it. And it's great, the theory of mass hypnosis, formation, he calls it. And I could see it then. Once I kind of started to look for it, I saw it everywhere. And then I remembered seeing little things on YouTube, which were like subliminal advertising. Yeah. That have been going on for a long time. That thing about you will own nothing and you will be happy. And it would, what does that mean? And bit by bit, that I put a rough kind of jigsaw puzzle together. And that made me even more resolute.
Yeah. So then he kind of woke up, and now there's all these articles about him saying he's been anti-needle. Clapton has spread misinformation about the needle and seemingly only conducts interviews with anti-needle outlets. Okay. So what's going on? I mean, how many people have really been hypnotized in regards to the needle?
Well, I have to say, I'm very, I consider it an honor to be on an anti-needle show. So how many people have been hypnotized? Oh, man. That would take some analysis to really come down to like a specific number. We know that something like 2 to 3 billion people got the shot. Of that group of people that got the needle, I would say, I don't know, maybe half of them didn't want it. They were forced to. They felt compelled. They were compelled. They weren't just felt compelled. So, I guess I would estimate maybe 1 to 1.5 billion people, based off the math that I'm doing on the top of my head right now as I'm talking to you. But really, anybody... Here's how you know that a person has been hypnotized with regard to the needle, and that is all you got to do is just show them here's side effects. Here's the list of side effects that Pfizer themselves have reported. They were forced to release their documents, and you can show that to some people, and their eyes will glaze over. And that is the look of somebody in hypnosis. What's happening with them is, and again, there could be a lot of different vectors of hypnosis depending on, because everybody's a little bit unique. Some people are going to be hypnotized by the fear of the illness. Some people are going to be hypnotized not so much by the fear of the illness, but because they don't want to fall out of favor with their in-group. A lot of people, in fact, I would probably wager the majority of the population filters information. When they look things up, they don't ask themselves, is this true? Is this not true? They ask, what will people think about me if I believe this is true? And again, I don't know in every case how conscious that is, but I can guarantee you that that's a thought process happening in the background for a lot of people. But yeah, if you can't observe that which is right in front of you to be observed. That's the equivalent of a hypnotist doing like an invisibility trick. In fact, that's something I've been learning to do myself, is to hypnotize somebody so they literally can't see me.
Wow.
And then we can pick up objects, and then it looks like the objects are flying around and that sort of thing. It's the same thing with the with anybody who's listening right now. I'm sure many of you have tried to bring information to your friends and family, warning them about the dangers, and it's like they literally can't see it. And I'm telling you right now that in many cases they literally can't. In some cases they're trying really hard not to. In other cases it's just it's so far outside of their implicit beliefs about what is and isn't true that they just literally can't acknowledge it, that the facts can't process. And there's ways out of this, by the way. I don't want this to sound too doom and gloom, because there's actually a lot of hope that we can have, because when we understand how this works, I've had the honor, I guess you could say, of helping some people really snap out of it. I helped not too long ago a woman who was really, really gung-ho about Black Lives Matter and feminism and all that sort of thing, actually get her to the point where she now openly agrees that it was much better that Trump won than Hillary. And had I approached her and said, "Oh, you're just the libtard," or something like that, "You're dumb. Like, how can you not see things the way I do?" Had I approached it that way, then my information would have not really registered. And so there's a technique that's called pacing and leading. And I think this is the crux of what I would really like for everybody listening to take away from this interview. Pacing and leading is simply this. It's you speak to a person's ongoing experience as accurately as you can. Once you've described their experience accurately enough, you can usually start to alter it by adding new things, like just to get everyone's toes wet. I'm not going to hypnotize anybody, but I'm going to do a real quick demonstration so that you all can get a very tiny taste of what it's like. So everybody listening right now, I know you're all listening to the words that I'm speaking. Some of you are sitting down. Some of you are standing up. Some of you might be driving a car. Don't worry if you are, because I'm not going to hypnotize you. But if you are driving a car, if you are sitting down, if you are standing up, if you're listening very deeply to the words that I'm saying, you might start to notice that you kind of would like a glass of Coca-Cola. And there it is. That's a technique. Some of you that didn't work on, I guarantee some of you that did. I know because it's worked on me.
So you can program someone to want Coca-Cola.
Definitely.
That's really interesting. So there's countless montages of news outlets doing what appears to be hypnosis. And I want to show you guys one that maybe you guys haven't seen, because there's a lot of people have seen the fake news one, like beware of fake news, all the media outlets saying the same thing. How about this one? Hypnotizing people to buy on Amazon. Take a look.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Relying on Amazon to deliver essentials like groceries and cleaning products. Groceries and cleaning products during the COVID-19 outbreak.
For the first time, we are getting a glimpse
inside Amazon's fulfillment centers
to see just how the company is keeping its employees safe and healthy.
Safe and healthy.
Safe and healthy.
Safe and healthy.
Safe and healthy, while still delivering those packages.
Still delivering packages to your doorstep.
Pre-scripted news headlines, you guys. Look, I come from the corporate news, and actually one of the news outlets highlighted there was my former TV station, which was a CNN affiliate. So CNN would actually feed down the scripts, and a lot of the outlets would just read them word for word. So this is the power of the New York or Atlanta-based corporate news, the national news, they actually feed scripts down to their local affiliates across the nation. And so you can actually program people through local news, collaborating with national news, and in that case, programming them to buy on Amazon. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, if you hear the same thing from, and I don't know if this has really been studied that scientifically, but it's true enough. Take it as fact. If 7 people or more who seemingly don't have a connection with each other all tell you the same thing, that is what we call in the persuasion world social proof. And social proof just simply means everybody else is doing it, so why aren't you?
I think that's why I got persecuted by Fox, for allowing a doctor to say what they actually use to treat patients, because it differed from all the other media narratives. And Fox was they said basically get in line with the narrative, because we can't be the odd one out, or we'll be attacked for it. And it's funny because CNN and some of the corporate news have picked on, they've picked on that montage of all the media outlets saying don't trust the fake news. Yet there's countless montages of them all in lockstep too. Rush Limbaugh used to be really good at compiling montages of all the media saying the same thing. It's a rampant thing every week, and Rush would compile these lists. He's not around anymore, sadly, to do it. But let me show you guys one of Rush's highlights where he called out the corporate media hypnosis, programming their viewers to believe this about Trump voters just last year.
Nothing more than a cult.
The cult of Trump. Do you consider those people cult members?
I do. I think they were deceptively recruited by an authoritarian political cult.
A Trump cult that wants to believe whatever the dear leader says.
They're following a cult.
I don't like Nazis and cultists.
This was a long, deliberate effort by political leaders led by Donald Trump to brainwash, to create a cult.
The most fanatic, the most extreme, the most dedicated of the people who really love him still. This cult.
How are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
There are millions of Americans, almost all white, almost all Republicans, who somehow need to be deprogrammed. It's as if they are members of a cult, the Trumpist cult.
And there you have it again. So how many different media people here referring to the Trumpist cult?
Yeah, so those media outlets programming their viewers to believe Trump voters are a cult. And what you said earlier, you think that Trump was programming his voters as well.
Well, I don't mean it in the same way that they did. And here's what I really mean. Sometimes a personality comes along and they're so charismatic and persuasive that it just kind of leaves an imprint on other people. In Trump's case, he is one of these people where he's just so, like I said, he's just so persuasive that the moment you kind of like see past the fog that they cover him with, the fog of maligning his reputation, you just realize, wow, this is a guy who sincerely cares about America and making America great. That's the bottom line. And so what these people are seeing, it gets a little tricky to analyze, but essentially what it comes down to is all these people are saying that Trump supporters and Trump's voters are a member of a cult, which, by the way, can't be true because Trump has been promoting the needle. How many of his base are following him on it? We actually think for ourselves much more, just statistically, than the other side does. This is actually
he has lost some cult members due to the person that's about the needle.
Yeah, it hasn't been popular, and that, you know, the irony is that's actually hardcore proof that his side, so to speak, really is much more the free thinking side of things. And, you know, maybe to help with understanding too, we can think of trance as being kind of like a spectrum rather than you're in it or you're not. So So how should I describe this? So I can take like a row of 5 people, and I can hypnotize. I can give different hypnotic commands. Some of those people are going to respond much more strongly than others, but most of them will probably have some degree of a response. So there's kind of a threshold you might think of between influence versus like truly capturing a person's mind. So I guess I'd like to sort of scale back about Trump and say that he is deeply influential, but I wouldn't say that I've encountered people anywhere in the MAGA world who would follow what he says no matter what. I do know lots of people on the other side who do behave that way. I can't find
no matter what.
Yeah, I
Remember
can't
the
find a
CDC
kinder way to
days.
put it, but it's like, if the left-wing media told a bunch of people to jump off a cliff, they would. I don't think Trump has captured people to that extent, and I don't think that's his intention either. In fact, I can pretty much say that isn't, because that has nothing to do with making America great. Not at all.
Yeah, I think, whether I don't think he wants to, put people in a trance or anything. But I have met Trump voters who have told me I would do anything Trump tells me to do. There are people out there who are like that. Now, my goal is for everyone to think for themselves. I just want everyone to honestly think for themselves. And my thought is a way to keep yourself from being in a trance, in my opinion, from being hypnotized, is to look at polarizing sides of an issue, look at various sources that disagree with each other, and see what makes logical sense in your own mind. That's my thought. What's your take?
Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic instinct. That's really the crux of the matter. In fact, an exercise I recommend everybody does is take a piece of paper, and by the way, am I still here? I just got a notification. Okay.
Yeah, you're still here.
Interesting. Yeah, my computer screen just flashed at me. But anyways, I can't really see what's going on. That's okay. I'm going to say what I had to say anyways. So take a piece of paper. What's that?
I can still see you, so go right ahead.
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, take a piece of paper. You can do this on a Word doc if you'd like. I recommend a piece of paper because writing something out physically with your hand involves more of your physiology. It involves more of your body to do that than to type something out. And there is something to getting people to move their body, as it were. It really, really helps certain ideas take root. So anyways, take a piece of paper, or if you're not inclined to, get yourself a Microsoft Word document, put at the top of it, write things that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then just start listing. And you don't have to get it right. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to put things on there that are just, scientifically, philosophically, theologically unassailable from every angle. Just start putting in there the things that you really, really feel that you know on a deep level. And maybe do this for about 10 minutes or so. The point isn't to list everything you know. The point is simply to get your critical faculty engaged. Hence why the title has to be Things I Know Beyond a Shadow of a Doubt. You'll find when you do this exercise that you really only know a very small set of things beyond a shadow of a doubt. Most things that you think you have estimated, perhaps very logically with very good reason. But then once you have that list, now try debunking those things. And this will be really difficult at first. Like I said, it's like lifting weights. It's if you've never done a push-up before, that first push-up is going to be grueling. But if you do this on a regular enough basis, let's say once a week or so, and just take 30 minutes, 10 minutes of writing down what I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, another 20 minutes of, okay, let's take one of these things that I wrote down and let's try to debunk it. Let's take the opposite side and journal this all out. and the point is that this is one way of exercising your critical faculty to prevent unwarranted influence and hypnosis from redirecting your mind.
Love that. That's a great tip. We have a super chat here. Does anyone know if Elon is a Mason or World Economic Forum? I feel like it's more trust the plan hopium, and people are being duped by a guy that wants to put chips in your head. Okay, what's your thought? You and I were just at an event where Elon Musk was discussed. So what's your take?
Oh, man. Well, I haven't looked too deeply into Elon Musk's, background, philosophy, whatever he believes. I certainly don't want a chip in my body anywhere for any reason, but some people may. I don't know. Some people are more comfortable with that than others. I'm not going to necessarily judge that in one way or the other, but what I will say is that when you get to the really high echelons of society, the billionaire classes, the well-funded media, things start to become, how do I put this? Things start to become quite veiled. People will say things to hint at, and when that super chat says trust the plan, I know what you're referring to. You're referring to this idea that there's like a positive, military insider and people in the high echelons of power. They're secretly, signaling using codes to each other. The reality is, in my opinion, I'm not going to say whether or not you should or should not trust any plan, but I am quite certain that happens. There's a website that's really fascinating called Decoding Symbolism, .wordpress, I believe, .com. And I don't agree with everything that website says, but I'm plugging them now because they do such an amazing job of compiling just how you'll see the same message over and over and over again, and how different communications, like one thing that he says on this blog, don't know the guy's name, I assume it's a he. We're going to be assuming genders around here, but one thing that he says is that the use of water is a high-level CIA communication that refers to information. So let's take Alex Jones. He's got this water filter that he sells. What is Alex Jones up to? I'm not trying to attack the guy. I know he's been attacked horribly, and how he's been treated and the court cases surrounding Sandy Hook is absolutely heinous. That said, there are those out there that believe that Alex Jones may or may not be connected to Israeli intelligence. Again, I'm very much a de-hypnotist. I'm a hypnotist by trade, but I'm a de-hypnotist by ethos. I try very, very hard not to suggest things too strongly, in particular when I'm just not, I'm not in the back room of these CIA or Mossad, social engineering conferences that I'm sure they have. But Decoding Symbolism, that website has shown so many ways that the concept of filtering water is used in media as a reference for what could be described as controlled disclosure. And I do believe, and again, this is my belief, I don't want anybody to take on board what I believe as their own belief without researching it themselves. My belief, however, is that one of the purposes of Alex Jones is to make people that do their own research look crazy to people that watch the mainstream media. And we are going to have to bridge this gap at some point. Maybe we can't, I'm not sure, but we are going to have to bridge this gap at some point where we on our side can recognize, those on the other side were put into a trance. To some extent, it wasn't their fault. They didn't know it was happening. And so they're not necessarily a bad person. And we can hope that they say the same thing about us. So anyways, I've sort of lost my point as I was going on that.
last few days I was presented with videos of Elon Musk saying some things that was pretty crazy about chips and things. I guess he's very invested in this technology, that as far as being able to transform, I believe he said he could with the new technology he's investing in, you can transform someone into a butterfly if you want. Like, what is that? As long as
Really?
we're doing that to our bodies at our own will, the concern is that, you know, someone outside of us is going to transform us into a butterfly. We don't.
Right.
I'm the only side I'm on is the side of freedom and, you know, autonomy over your own self. So thank you to Lenko for the super chat. Thank you to Mark for the super sticker. No comment, just a super sticker. I appreciate that. And then Hand of Mold. Thank you. What are the guest credentials? Yes, so you sent me your credentials. I'm looking at them now. Practitioner of coaching, as well as a conversational hypnotist, certified as a conversational hypnotist. You had a ton of credentials. Professional hypnotherapy diploma. You have that diploma as well. So any other credentials that I'm missing?
Well, you know, credentials are great and all, but here's the thing about cultural hypnosis is that credentials are often used to basically hypnotically reinforce the credibility system of the mainstream society. So credentials are important. I'm not saying they're not, but the main credential is when I hypnotize somebody, does the hypnosis work or not? I without giving away too much personal information, I have worked with people who had just awful childhoods. I've worked with people that were in a lot of pain, and you know, your viewers more than welcome to not believe me. That's fine if they don't want to, because I'm not going to release personal information. But I have a track record of you know, helping people with insomnia, with pain control. Started working with allergies, and in particular with pain control. I have yet to put somebody through a hypnotic process that didn't result in a lessening of whatever painful symptom they had. For example, I worked with a woman that had a broken wrist from a car accident. She was on, you know, all kinds of prescribed opiates, and again, no medical claims here, not trying to be a doctor, but for some reason, somehow, after she and I spoke, she didn't need to take that medication and the pain was manageable.
Awesome.
You know, so that's my answer to that. Don't look at what people do and what they accomplished. As the saying goes, by their fruits ye shall know them. There's a lot of people out there that if you tell them that 2 + 2 = 4, instead of just acknowledging the obvious truth of that, they'll ask to see your credentials. And obviously with hypnosis is not such an obviously correct thing as 2 + 2 = 4. So it's a totally fine question to ask. But I would recommend to everybody that if you really want to be free in your mind, don't put so much stock in someone's credentials. Instead, work with the ideas that they share. Everyone's going to have to do that eventually, you know?
Oh, the same person sent another super chat. Those didn't sound like credentials. Subterfuge detected and lots of diversion. No, he did. You guys, he emailed me like 10 different attachments of all his credentials. StreamYard, which I'm using for YouTube, doesn't allow me to bring up PDF attachments, but only video attachments for some reason. But anyway, his credentials are legit, you guys. And okay, so how can people get a hold of you if they want to?
Sure. So I can be reached at hypnotistpaulwilliam@gmail.com.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to say before we close this out?
Yeah. A couple things. First of all, you know what? If anybody wants to have their own opinion about anything that I've said. I encourage that. You should. You absolutely should. Do that with everybody that you trust. And I'm not saying become paranoid. I'm just saying, you know, there's nobody in the world that can do your thinking for you. And the thing about credentials is a credential is the world's telling you that this person's an expert. But the world's telling you that a person is an expert is not the same thing as you figuring it out for yourself. It isn't. And so, you know, I could demand to see somebody's clinical psychology diploma and then discover that that person doesn't believe that there's such a thing as man or woman. So that person has credentials, but they're crazy, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it. But that's fine. You know, everyone should come to their own conclusions on things. Please do the exercise of what do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt. You will find, I can basically guarantee it, you will find that your mind will start to be able to process things on a much finer detail level. You will be fooled less and less and less over time. Again, it's like lifting weights. It takes some strength, or it takes time to build some strength. And then the very last thing I want to say is to anybody out there that has kind of lingering worries, doubts, anxieties, low self-esteem, that sort of thing, I'm going to recommend another exercise. And that is set on your calendar a period of about 10 minutes. Write it down where you're going to make an appointment with yourself. And when you go to this appointment, when it's just you and you, speak to yourself the way that somebody who just truly, truly loves you would talk to you. Tell all those anxieties, tell all those worries, whatever they may be, hangups, just say to them, acknowledge them. Just say, I'll get back to you. You know, I'm not cutting you out. I'm not trying to make you be anything other than what you are. But I have an appointment with myself to speak nothing but kind words to myself. And, you know, I recommend doing that for as long as it takes to really start to inhabit a new reality. Again, for lack of a better way of putting it, sometimes when I say inhabit a new reality, it feels a little bit new agey. So I'm trying to figure out my branding here and how to improve what I'm doing. But essentially, that's what it comes down to. Your experience of reality will change if you do this. And for anyone that is not inclined to, that's fine. Don't.
Love that.
Yeah.
Program yourself towards uplifting vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Uplifting vibes. That's a good way to put it.
Awesome. Okay, final note. Look at this, you guys. Department of Justice even uses hypnosis. State of Texas uses hypnosis a lot in criminal prosecution. So hypnosis is something that is used by a lot of people. It's a real thing. Just make sure, everybody, that you are not getting hypnotized by anyone. Make sure that you can think for yourself and you know exactly why you believe what you believe. And I like to stay open-minded myself and keep looking for the truth, no matter what anyone else says, left or right. All right. Thank you so much, Paul William, the hypnotist. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking. And everybody, take care of your mind, and let's not lose the hope of saving America, because that's what we're all about. So Absolutely. That's all from me.
All right. See you later, guys. Bye.